Morning, everybody. Brent Jeffries, Vice President of Bierer Meters and Safety Trainer with Bierer Meters. And
Ryan Bierer with Bierer Meters, also Safety Trainer, Operations Inside.
All right. So we're coming to you guys with what we call our Bierer Meters Linemen Safety and Tool Training. This is actually going to be on ECOS, our electric culture of safety, that we started earlier this year, forming a coalition of safety guys, a safety team, a line team, coming together and sharing their expertise in their particular segment of the utility industry. And everybody's doing this and giving back freely. And this is an amazing thing that we're starting here, and you guys are able to participate, register, be part of this. We'll talk about that more in just a bit. Bierer Meters, we've been in business for about 35 years, and we build, as you guys know, we build the phasing tools, voltage indicators, test equipment, secondary test equipment, secondary ID, primary ID equipment, grounds tester, and we'll talk about that. So we build all these things, temporary protective grounds, custom, we build all these things. But about 5 years ago, I came to the folks, and I travel around with this trailer and truck around the country going to shows, and we were demonstrating our tools at utilities, contractors, things like that. And about 5 years ago, I came to the folks and I said, look, we're going to change this up. We're going to start doing what we're calling lineman safety and tool training 5 years ago. And we're going to travel. I'm going to travel around the country. Too many guys are getting hurt, and we're going to do this at no cost. Let's try it for 6 months. If the customer likes it, the workers like it, and the operations managers, they like it, the safety guys like it, then we're going to continue. So it has never stopped. So we're even doing this today. So now what we're doing is we're going to attach this to what we're calling ECOS. It's electric culture of safety, to register and spread this around too, because it's hard for us just to spread it around on our own. But just text capital Bierer, B-I-E-R-E-R, to 22828. And then you can also contact me at safetytraining@biermeters.com. Contact me direct if you have any questions about what's coming up. Once you register, and we only accept company emails, but once you're registered to ECOS, what happens is you will receive announcements. And check your spam folder because it's a mass mailer type deal. Sometimes it goes to spam. But what you're going to do is you're going to receive all the announcements, which are a couple a week typically, so we keep you up to date with what's going on. But you're also going to receive what we're calling our Lineman Safety National Webinars. And we just finished 006 yesterday with Rod Courtney came in talking about the 8 habits of a highly effective safety culture. He just was here yesterday. And being a member of ECOS, Electric Culture Safety, you will automatically get all the live line links to each webinar. Every single month, you'll get a notice a month ahead. You'll get a notice about 2 weeks later with the live line link that you can participate in and freely enjoy. We will have it professionally recorded, which is being done today, and you will receive that recording automatically at no cost. This is no cost safety. We're coming together in a coalition. Too many guys are getting hurt. Too many folks are working apart from one another, independent from one another. And that's fine. Everybody's got to make a living. So what we're doing is we're going to take those folks that are doing this, making a living, and we're going to come together as a team as well. We can do both. It's okay. And that's what we're going to do. So next month we got Mr. Jimmy Vaughn coming in, and he's going to be talking at our 001 Lineman Safety National 007, National Safety Webinar. And then we got Mr. Jim Duncan coming in from Kiewit, and he'll be speaking as well in September. So we got a whole line. We got speakers every single month for the next year, and we're just going to keep it going. Okay, so you guys can participate. Today, what we're going to bring to you is what we call our lineman safety and tool training. This is going to be a segment of knowledge and understanding that the linemen, your line team out there in the field, must have. This knowledge and understanding that we're going to share with you today is a must-have. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in with a component of many components regarding safety. As you guys have hats, you wake up and you put on a hat. Not necessarily a hat for real like this here, but you put on a hat. You got a job to do. You're going to do preparation to prepare for that job. So preparation, you got a preparation hat. You got a driving hat to get to the job. You're going to talk about things. That's another hat. You're going to prepare job briefing, JSA. You're going to go over these things. So there's different hats. You ride motocross. You're going to put on a motocross hat, helmet, right? You're going to play football. You do all these things. You walking out in the sun, you maybe wear a ball cap. All right, so you put on different hats. We got hard hats. And so we got different components, different hats that we got to wear throughout our day. But we got to do this as a team. And this is part of, people get hurt. They perish. They get hurt. They lose body parts because they lack knowledge. They lack understanding. So this is an important segment, an important part of knowledge and understanding that you must have. Okay? So this is going to be our Linemen Tech Tool National Webinar 002. We got a 001 already. My brother Joe Bierer did it a few months ago. This is 002. We're hoping by 004 in September we have a manufacturer that steps up and comes to the plate, and they also participate in ECOS with their products. It's got to be American made. They're going to show their reliability. They're going to show the functionality of the tool. They're going to show the safety of the tool. They're going to show their customer service for that particular tool and how it benefits efficiency for our line team out there in the field. So hopefully we'll get somebody in September, September 13th. So keep that in mind because we want other folks to step up. We can't do it all. So this is going to be your Linemen Tech Tool National Webinar 002. This is going to be open forum, and it's going to be open forum for every chance that we have. And you guys are welcome to ask questions. We'll field the questions. We'll pick a few. You guys are welcome to ask questions. And this is what we typically do when we travel around the United States with this trailer, coast to coast, Brownsville, Texas, into Canada. Ask questions. Okay, it's open forum. So here we go. This just takes a little less fuel for us to bring it to you this way. How's that? A little safer too. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about our grounds tester. We're going to talk about your TPGs. Your TPGs are to be considered a best friend. All right, it's a good sign to have as you drive your line truck, your bucket truck out of the service center. It's a good sign to have. Your TPGs are your best friend. We're going to talk about your best friend. And OSHA, which Brady Hansen spoke about, OSHA regs, he calls these the scripture for our line crews, the scripture. And I like that, so I'm going to go off of that too. But this is a must-have. And we're going to talk about the OSHA 1910.269. If you go to 1910.269, you go to lowercase n. Lowercase n is going to talk about your TPGs and how the employer is to be responsible and how an employer is to train, is to share what the OSHA regs say with their crews. You've got to be open about it. Share what it says. So the lowercase n that talks about your temporary protected grounds, it goes right into, if you go to number 4, I got to do it this way. If you go to number 4, lowercase I, it talks about how the IEEE 1048 and the ASTM F855 are guidelines for the OSHA regs. So it's good to understand what these guidelines talk about. So what we want to do is before you're using your TPGs, your best friend, is you always want to take care of your best friend, is you're going to do a visual inspection. I've been to many utilities and contractors throughout the United States, many. And they are not training their linemen to visually inspect their TPGs prior to use. That's kind of crazy. But all that changes when we leave, when we get this trailer packed up and we drive away from them. Things change. Work methods are changed. The training is changing. And thousands of linemen are much7fer today than they were 5 years ago. And that's part of why we got ECOS going. There's no cost to this, man. You can check out our endorsements. This is only several months old this year, all right? So you're going to visually inspect. You're going to look for a lack of blackened copper if you can see the copper. You're going to look for a lack of patinaed copper. You don't want to see any bubble jacket, and you don't want to see any cracks on your clamps. You don't want to see any obvious loose connections, and you don't want to see any oxidization on your components, especially, and this is crazy because I've seen it, man, walking into these utilities, especially on your contact points. Does that make sense? So when you're setting up your EPZ, setting up your bracketing and all that, make sure your contact points are clean as well on your equipment and on your TPGs. Both, okay, both of them. That's a South Carolina word, it's one word, both of them, okay? All right, so what you're gonna do is you're also gonna perform a mechanical test. And the mechanical test, you wanna go ahead and physically grab a hold of those clamps, grab a hold of your cable, and make sure that crimp is nice and tight, that cable's not loose in the crimp. You're also gonna verify that the ferrule is actually tight within that clamp as well. And you don't wanna see any obvious loose components, like, you know, little pieces on those duck bills and such, okay? So as long as they pass a visual, and if they pass a mechanical test, typically your TPGs, your best friend, are going to take care of you. All right? So also our OSHA, bringing up those guidelines, talks about how you're going to electrically test. Some utilities, contractors to this day, now this is crazy, do not electrically test their TPGs. Think about it. The employer is to be responsible that the TPGs are properly working for the employee. And the guidelines say electrically test. And some folks still don't. I don't get it. Anyways, what we're gonna do is, the grounds tester here, ours is very safe. Walter Bierer, my stepdad, who owns the company for the last 35 years, still today, he's still giving us his kids and my nephew here, Ryan Bierer, and my brother, my sister, he still gives us advice and kind of leads us along like a shepherd, and it's awesome. So here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to simply put continuous current on these TPGs. Some testers are glorified ohms meters, but ours takes the ASTM F855 chart, table 1, page 2, and it is on our machine. That's kind of cool. These are awesome. So what we're going to do is when we test, we're going to be in a controlled environment outside here. It's a beautiful day in South Carolina. Got a little mist, a little rain, so if we got drips falling off our hats, then you'll know why. Not necessarily the sweat, even though it's kind of humid. But you want to be in a controlled environment. You don't want to test these out in the full sun. Just underneath a canopy of some sort, at least, minimum. You also want to make sure when you test your TPGs that you're going to test these in a parallel configuration. And the reason why you want to test them in a parallel configuration is because you want to mitigate any magnetic field as much as possible. Also, it mitigates any thermal activity as far as too hot, above and beyond normalcy, okay? So we suggest to build a 2x12 channel with 2x4s on the side, and that you pre-measure that apparatus wherever you're testing these from. So what we're going to do is, we don't have that, so we're just going to mimic that parallel situation, create that parallel situation, and we're going to run this up to what's required on a number 2 cable, which we suggest a 1/0 or 2/0 because it's not as flimsy, and odds of breaking strands inside that jacket are a lot less. So we're just going to simply go up to 165. You can see can you see that, Skylar? That continuous current meter here. All right, and we're looking for, it's a little over 165 amps, which is required on the chart. We're looking for a 0.24 voltage drop or less, and then this passes. You can see a 0.22, let's just call it. So these TPGs, this assembly from start to finish passes, all right? Some utilities recently, Ryan Bierer has been to, they were testing from the ferrule to ferrule, and they were removing the clamps for their testing. You can't do that. The linemen are out there using the entire assembly. So you got to test the entire assembly all put together, all right? So this passes, so what you're going to do is you're going to put a date stamp. Now, I haven't seen where the regs say how often you test. I think it needs to be clearly displayed, clearly written, but I can't see it at this time. Maybe you guys know about it. I don't. Anyways, there should be a date stamp so the linemen are aware when it was last tested. So that date stamp keeps it in their mind, because they have the training that they're going to be tested. We recommend every 12 months or so. Some folks go 18 months. Some folks go 6 months. I think 12 months is plenty fine as long as the linemen are completing a visual and a mechanical inspection. I think 12 months is perfect, okay? Anyways, each their own. So this passes. What we're gonna do is Ryan's gonna come over here and we're gonna create that magnetic field that you don't wanna have. And we're gonna create this loop, okay? Okay, Ryan, you could explain this now, what we're doing.
All right, so in testing in tight parallel, instead of it testing in tight parallel, we've got a loop configuration. This is to mimic how you don't want to use grounds out in the field. You don't want them in a loop configuration. You want them in a straight line as possible. Again, to offset that magnetic field like Brent was talking about. So here's an example. There's that magnetic field that's going to cause resistance, and it's also going to cause a lot of unwanted activity if the ground is to become energized incidentally. Here's in a tight parallel, this is going to represent a ground in a straight line out in the field. Since our tester obviously is a compact unit, we can't test them in a straight line, but we can put them in a tight parallel. So you see there's a lot less magnetic activity. That shows how the magnetic field's offset. Gives you an example of, or an explanation as to why you want to use your grounds in a straight line, if possible.
All right, everybody see that? So we're going to talk about things today. We're going to present this demonstration to you all today. And we're going to talk about some different examples. Again, this is a safety segment that all linemen should have in their heads, knowledge and understanding. Knowledge and understanding helps mitigate folks perishing. You got to have knowledge and understanding. Helps mitigate folks getting hurt, near incidences, and actual contact. All right? So it's important that you have this training. Everybody, all linemen has this training that you're receiving today at no cost. When Ryan was showing you that coiled up configuration, if you've got that coil onto your ground reel on your truck, you can see what could happen. If a potential fault current hits that cable is going to explode on that reel. Literally will explode. I was doing training last December in North Carolina, and a contractor out there in North Carolina, one of the guys came up to me after the lineman safety and tool training and said, hey, we got some long grounds that we use on our higher KV transmission lines, but we use the same set on our lower KV transmission lines. Well, we got extra grounds, extra length. So what I've been doing is I've been coiling those up and taping them and letting them hang. And it's like, dude, we just had the training. You got to tell your employer to buy you 2 sets of grounds. One set you already have, the long set for the higher KV transmission line, but you're going to get the shorter set. The shorter set for your 69, that's going to be good for not needing to coil up your extra cable. It's okay. So get 2 sets. It's okay. All right, it's a lot safer. All right.
So now we'll get into some of the voltage indicators, voltage detectors, talk about some basics real quick before we get started with the hands-on training. It's important to always do a battery test before you use these devices, regardless of manufacturer. It doesn't matter whose device you're using. And that's how this whole training today will be, is regardless of manufacturer. We make these tools, so we've decided we're going to use them for this training. But we hear a lot about folks getting these tools and telling their guys, hey, perform a battery test. If the tool checks out on a battery test, it's good to go, it's good to use. As the manufacturer, we know that's not entirely true. When you perform a battery test, you're just checking the battery, and about maybe 90% of the tool with our device, less with other users, could be possible, could be more. But with ours, again, you're not giving the tool a true tool test, and we'll go over here in a bit how to perform a true tool test on a live known voltage source, whether it's a tester or energized conductor. But again, inside these tools, ours use a 9-volt battery. There's no transformer inside the device that's stepping that 9-volt battery up to a high voltage to give the tool a true tool test. with that 9-volt battery, what you're going to do on the AV meter or horn and light device, you're going to flip to the test position on the back. You want to hear the horn and see the light. If you're not hearing the horn and seeing the light, you want to get a good battery in the device. All of our tools house the 9-volt battery behind the Liveline tool fitting on the front. So just unscrew it, get a good known working 9-volt battery in the device. If you still don't hear the horn and see the light, you want to get the tool tag, get it out of service, get it sent back to the manufacturer, whoever it may be. All of our tools, no matter how old they are, we'll service them. We've still got some devices that are around 30, 35 years old. Out in the field, we'll service them to this day. For an analog device, real quick, same thing. Either they'll have a test position on the back or you toggle to the far setting and hold. So flipping to that test position, you want to see a deflection of the needle. If you're not seeing a deflection of the needle at all or it's weak, you want to get another battery in the device. Again, get a battery in the device that you know is good. If you're still not seeing a strong deflection of the needle or no deflection at all, again, you want to get the tool tag, get it out of service, get it sent back to the manufacturer, whoever it may be. For the digital tools, our tools in particular, again, they'll either have a test position on the back or a toggle. You just toggle and hold. This device in particular, toggle and hold it, and it's going to give you a digital readout of the battery voltage. So we're seeing 6.9 volts. So we recommend as a manufacturer of these devices to use the tools at 7 volts or greater. So as soon as I quit talking, I'm going to go swap this battery out. But you want to see 7 volts or greater. The reason for that is it's going to give you more accuracy, better information. The tool's still going to work under 7 volts. Again, but it's not going to give you the best information as possible. And that's what you want, especially if you're using a digital device. Next, I'll go into the tool functionality, how any manufacturer, again, voltage detector, voltage indicator, how these devices work. First, you always want to make sure you're using a contact device, direct contact device. If you're not using a direct contact device, the tools can be affected by other potentials nearby. They're not going to give you as good of information. We always recommend using a direct contact tool. So we'll go into how the tools work. A direct contact device, a single probe device, corded, wireless, doesn't matter. Again, and regardless of manufacturer, you're going to make contact. Whatever that point of contact is, a ground, neutral, any conductor you may be trying to check for energized, de-energized. You're going to make contact with that conductor. The tool is going to look at the current in relation to the ground plane. So those conductive components are going to look at the current through the probe, through the meter housing in relation to ground. If the tool's wireless, it has to do that wirelessly through the air. If you've got a cord, through a cord. But again, these components inside the device are conductive, so those components become energized. What we do to make the tool safer, though, is we put resistors in the probe. Those resistors step down that current to make the tool a lot safer for you, and also safer as far as using the device in close proximity to grounds, hot conductors, whatever may be nearby the device. So what we also do with those resistors in the probe is we encapsulate them in an epoxy. That epoxy is to keep out any dirt, grime, water that may get into the device. That would cause an internal track to those conductive components. So by doing that, we limit the potential of an internal track. So what you could experience if you're using the tool improperly, or if it's dirty, it's got improper calibration stickers, maybe the tool's being misused. What you could still see is an external arc across the device. What we put on the device here is a line limiting mark. That line limiting mark is a recommendation by ASTM. What it is where you don't want to bypass on this stem with a conductor, an energized source, or a nearby ground, especially if you're making contact here with an energized source. And there's a ground in close proximity to this device. Since these components in the meter housing themselves are conductive, what you could see is it could create a path across the device. It's not going to hurt the tool, but it could cause an arc flash across the tool. And again, it's not going to hurt the tool. It would just be an improper work method and unsafe use of the device. And Brent will go into more depth of improper use of the device, unsafe scenarios, and then proper work methods. And we'll actually prove with one of our other tools how they're unsafe, how you need to use the tools properly. Also, what we recommend is always using an adapter on the end of the probe. So we have our live line fittings that go on the end of the device. Those accessories are to extend out from the device, a hook probe maybe if you're using it on an overhead conductor, straight probe if you're using it maybe at a point source like a capacitive test point, things as such. Or we've got the bushing adapters for an underground, and then we've also got elbow adapters for underground as well. What that is you put it on the end of the tool, and it helps better extend out and help you with your depth perception. That way you're not bypassing that line limiting mark with an energized source or a ground. Maybe overhead you're using a hook probe, put it on there, that way you don't bypass the conductor, bypass that line limiting mark. Just helps your depth perception for proper work methods. So I'll let Brent go ahead and get started here.
Okay, folks, so tool care, just use your hot stick wipes, keep it clean, no calibration stickers, no dirt, no grease, no grime. We're going to talk about how these tools function, functionality of these tools. Now this training, you guys need to keep in mind, this training is non-bias. It doesn't matter if you're using our tools or somebody else's voltage indicator, phasing tool, corded, wireless, they all work the same. Like Ryan said, the tools are looking at the current in relation to the ground plane. Okay, if they're wireless, it does it through the air. If it's corded, it's doing it through the cord. But it's the same principle. That's how they work. So if that's the case, these tools, because it's giving you a voltage indication, or you're verifying you're in phase, out of phase, the components are energized like Ryan said, that means the tool's to be considered energized. Because of the resistors, you don't have the primary power that's coming through these tools, obviously, but they're still energized with quite a bit of voltage. So you need to treat these tools as energized, always as energized, okay? Or that's how they work. Okay, so we're going to talk about tool functionality, because now you know they're energized. So when you're working these tools, you're going to be working hot. Liveline Safety in Texas sent us some gloves, but we need some bigger, little bit longer covers. Okay, Ruben? Keep that in mind. Donated to ECOS. That's kind of cool. So here we go. If they're energized, what we want to do is we're going to talk about your second best friend. Your second best friend, you got your TPGs, that sign that the linemen see when they drive out of their service center every single day to do work. Is going to say your temporary protective grounds, our best friend. You got two of them. The other one is going to be your air gap, air dielectric. So if that's the case, she's your best friend. You want to take care of your best friend, always. So you're going to keep her, all right? You're not going to ignore her or say bad things to her, all right? So what you're going to do is you're going to get back on your stick. When you're using it, you can get a handheld hand guard. We make these too. You're going to get a hand guard pre-measured, and because of arc flash distance, you want to be at least 31 inches back from the meter head, all right? Actually, the live line fitting right here, you see, is energized too. It's metal. All right, so you want 31 inches back minimum. I like 36. But you're going to establish, train, and teach. It's going to be part of your work methods. You're going to keep and protect the air dielectric, your best friend. Same as you train, teach, and share regarding your TPGs. Same thing. Now, everybody out there, all the line crews, you all need to know that you're going to hear some things today that you never heard before. And that's good. That's why we're doing it. All right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But you all are very significant. You have high value and great purpose. I don't care how long you've been doing it. I don't care if you just started. You got great purpose and high value. Always remember that. And because we're a line team, that's what we are, a line team, line family, you're going to keep an eye on your brothers and sisters. If you see, and you will, something that's contrary to what we speak about today, all you got to do is stop them and have a conversation. Do some impromptu training right on the field, okay? All right, so we're going to keep your air dielectric. You're going to be back on your stick. Don't want to do what we call short sticking. All right, a lot of guys short stick when they're using the tools. Some guys actually use their tools with another nickname that a lineman doesn't have, a line worker don't want to have ever, in their repertoire, or whatever you call that, their toolbox, okay, is you don't want to be nicknamed tool glover. Right here, tool gloving. How many guys have you seen? I'm sure it's none of you, right? How many folks have you seen with their voltage indicator, with their phasing sticks, and their tool gloving? How many? Okay? I know you guys wouldn't do that. But I tell you what, as line workers, we got a little cognitive disconnect sometimes, and our head doesn't talk well sometimes with our hands and our eyes. There's a little disconnect sometimes. And we got to make sure, we got to watch out for each other that we don't have that disconnect, that you're not seeing that disconnect out in the field with your line team, okay? I had one guy did some training in California several years ago. And one guy came up to me and said, hey, I appreciate the training. He said, I was using the tool gloving for years, decades, literally. He's an older fella, decades. And he literally took a horn and light, like right here, like Ryan shared with you guys, took a horn and light, and instead of tool gloving, he went to a capacitive test point on the elbows, and he actually didn't have his gloves on. He only did it one time in his entire life. That's all this takes, man. All it takes is that one time where you have a disconnect between your head and what your gut knows what you got to do. Maybe you're going too fast. Maybe you're getting tired. End of the day, it's getting dark. You want to get some warmth. You want to get some food. You want to get some rest, all right? And you're not thinking clearly. And that's why we got to watch out. That's when you got to step it up. It's hot outside, muggy. You don't want to be outside. You want to be sitting in that service center waiting for that service call on your butt, watching some dumb TV show. That means nothing, okay? And yeah, he got a couple 100 volts going through him. Obviously, it wasn't primary power, but he got a couple 100 volts going through his body because he's a potential ground plane. No gloves, all right? That's what happens. So no tool gloving, no short sticking. So how they work is, tool functionality is, X, like Ryan talked about, X is going to be your conductor, energized or de-energized, that's your X. Y is tool functionality. The tool looks at that current. In relation to the ground plane, tool functionality gives you a voltage indication. That's how they work. X plus Y. That's how everybody's tools work. Not just ours, but everybody's. So this is not rocket science, but you need to understand tool functionality, and you got to understand the equation X plus Y. You got to know it, okay? Equals. This is what's going to equal this equation. Equals first to safety. See, a lot of guys, they're looking for the indication, the reading, in phase, out of phase. What's the voltage? Are we hot? Are we not hot? Okay? And the truth is, it's not the first thing we're looking for after the equal sign. The first thing we're looking for after the equal sign is safety and proper information gathering. There's improper information that you can gather, and there's proper information you can gather. If you're using the tool improperly, you're going to get improper information gathering, and then you also don't get safety. Okay? So X plus Y equals safety, proper information gathering. There you go. All right? So what you're going to do is you're going to be back on your stick. You're going to have that air dielectric, because that's equals safety. Short sticking, what happens is X plus Y now is X plus Y plus U. And you do not get proper information gathering, and you do not get safety when it's you are in the equation. When you're tool gloving, again, it's X plus Y plus U, because you're a potential ground plane and you're interfering with the ground plane you want the tool to look at, which is down there, right here. But the tool's looking at you as well as a potential ground plane. This is never equal safety, and it does not equal proper information gathering. So stay away from the tool. All right? So that's how the tools work. Everybody's. Teach it, train it, share it. That line limit, Ryan talked about where the resistors are. All right, so that's your safety buffer of safety right there. So you don't want to bypass, like Ryan said, with another energized source or ground plane. That makes sense. Okay, you guys know why now. You know, typically, linemen, you're out there in the field, and typically you're handing a phasing tool, you're handing a voltage indicator, some test equipment, and you're handing these things, but no one trains you on how they even work. I hear it all the time. And they're brand new tools, shiny, brand new bag, brand new box, whatever they come in, package. They give them, and they're not trained on how these tools function. That seems ridiculous, all right? So share this. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna be back on your tool. X plus Y equals safety and accurate information gathering. That line limit, you're gonna create a sphere. And in your mind, you're gonna take that sphere and you're gonna go all the way around. You're gonna go all the way around from that line limit, and you're gonna come all the way around the back of the tool with that sphere. You're gonna create a ball around that meter head. And that ball, you don't want to enter in that space of that ball with an energized source or a ground plane. I was on my way doing some training for a utility last February in Texas. And I'm in Mississippi on my way. I'm almost to Texas. I'm getting all excited. And I'm getting close to Louisiana. I'm getting all excited. My phone rings. And the utility I'm doing training for in Texas calls me and said, hey, we had an arc flash. And the next day I was going to do safety training for them. And it was with your tool. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm a little late to get there, but you guys definitely need alignment, safety, and tool training. But hey, show me the picture. He shows me the picture. Sure enough, what happened is on the back side of that tool, the linemen, they were going into that cabinet, doing some underground. They're going into that cabinet, and there was a bleed wire off the elbow on the back side of that tool. So you got a ground right there. He's inside the sphere. The tool's energized. Arc flash. Bam. Okay? That makes sense? You guys should know that's exactly what potentially is going to happen every time that you enter in that sphere. Maybe a close cabinet. Maybe you got a tight vault. All right? Maybe you're doing some substation work, and you're on a bus, and there's a hot bus nearby that head. What do you think is going to happen? You know the tool's energized. You got a phase here, and you got a tool in between that's energized. What the heck, man? Sure enough, arc flash, we get the call. I have to fly out there, give them some lineman safety and tool training. They were going to stop using our tools. They didn't have any confidence our tools suck. After the training, they buy a whole bunch more of our tools, okay? Because they understand now. They have knowledge. They have understanding. Now they have safety, preservation. All right? So there you go. So I'm over in, I get a call this one day about 3 years ago, and lead lineman calls me and he says, hey, I'm with your analog tool right here, analog tool, okay, and I'm on 7200 and I'm getting 13,000 volts. It's like, what the heck, your tool's no good. And I told him, I said, you don't want to argue with lead linemen, okay? Arguing with linemen's bad enough, but a lead lineman, don't go there. So I was like, hey, look, man, I said, you know what, keep your tool. I'm going to come and do some safety training for you, lineman safety and tool training. And I said, then after the training, we'll go outside. I want you to create the same scenario that you had before the training. I want you to create the same scenario after the training. And let's see if your tool's still broke. Let's just go there, okay? He's like thinking I'm some kind of nutcase. All right? So anyways, we do that. Here's a corner pole right here. And this was out of Illinois, cooperative out of Illinois, lead lineman, 20-year journeyman lineman. He's ahead of all the linemen, and he's saying that his tool's broke. So after the training, he gets back in the bucket truck, back with the broke tool. He touches that 7200 line right here with this broke tool, and the tool that was broke telling him 13,000 volts. The tool's giving him about 7,400 volts. Think about it. All right, so what happened? Why was the tool broke before? Well, because he had improper body position. All right, so there's proper body position and improper body position. Remember this, always. Different components, different scenarios, different equipment, different day, different attitude. It's okay, but there's always proper and there's always improper body positions wanting to work inside of you. And you get to choose what you're going to pick, which card you're going to pick. Okay? So here's him when he called me and the tool is broke. Short stick, improper body position. He had his back to his potential enemy. And when you're working hot, you need to always consider that hot phase, that hot conductor is a potential enemy. We got potential grounds, okay? But we need to talk about potential enemy, not just potential enemy. And we got to call it what it is, all right? When you go home and you get in your house, you turn on the lights, give your wife a hug, then that potential, that power is a blessing. But when you're out in the field working hot, I would treat it as a curse, all right? And you don't want that curse coming on to you. So you got to have proper body position. This is improper. He had his back to that potential. Improper body position, short stick, improper body position times 2, all right? He had the bucket truck in the same place after the training as prior to the training. And what he did is he just repositioned his body. That's all he did. He's at this corner pole, right? He's at that corner pole. That's what that is, corner pole. I know it's a little lean to it, and if you go to Texas, you'll see a lot of leaning poles. You know, the Indians in Texas, they actually named their children Leaning Pole, okay? So here's him in the bucket truck after the training. He's back on the stick. He's got his potential enemy in front of him, proper body position all the way around. This guy's safe. So now he gets 7,400. So now he gets proper information gathering. You guys get that? Real simple. Another guy, Louisiana, calls me up and says, hey man, I'm using your horn and light and the tool's broken. I asked him, I said, hey, did you check it to check the battery? Yep. You checked the tool on a live known voltage source? Yep. And I said, did the tool work properly when you did all those checks? Yep. And I told him, I said, the tool's work. The tool's not broke at all. He's like, well, you might say it's not broke, but it is broke. And I said, okay, fine, shoot a video. He shoots a video. This guy here, he's at a corner pole. And he's short sticking. He's got his back to that potential enemy. Imagine that. This is everywhere all around the country. This is happening every day. That's crazy stuff, man. And he's got a partner with him. How come his partner wasn't trained not to work like that? How come his partner wasn't trained not to short stick? How come his buddy didn't say, hey man, that's improper body position. Come on, you're coupling with the capacitance behind you. Your enemy is behind you, man. Put it in front of you. So you're watching out for one another. Talk, all right? So I gave him a quick training on his phone, and he gets back on that same position, same bucket truck, and he's getting the proper information gathering. He had the switch open. The switch was open. And when he touched that conductor, switch is open, the conductor showed it was energized, the tool, the horn and light went off, okay? So the switch is open, and the tool is saying it's energized, but you know the switch is open. So that long source, that conductor, When he made contact with improper body position, short sticking, improper body position with the enemy at his back, was that tool telling the truth or was it a false positive? Tool told him the truth. It was positively energized and it was flowing across his back. That coupling with capacitance was flowing across his back, across his gloves, through the tool the opposite direction, and saying that the conductor was energized. Okay? Not primary power, but it had something on it, and that's the truth. The tool was telling the truth. I gave him a quick lesson, proper body position, improper body position, and I haven't heard from him. This is about 4 years ago. Haven't heard from him since. Okay? So these are very important. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and energize. And what we do is we travel around with this trailer, kind of getting it in the pasture a little bit. It's kind of getting beat up, and we might get it in more pasture. Let it rest a little bit because it's getting old. All right? So when you get old, you got to kind of let things pasture out a little bit. Just let them be. All right? So we're kind of letting this be, but we're going to still use it. So we're back feeding these pad mounts right here. This is real. We're back feeding with 12208, and we're coming out the front. The hot bushings right here are going to end up being 19.9 34.5. All right? Real stuff. We'll have 12208 secondaries right here, and then we're going to have 12208 overhead, but we'll call it 7200. Okay? Because it sounds kind of cool. So we're going to energize real quick. Does anybody have any questions yet? Any questions yet? Everybody hear good? The visual's good? Audio's good? Yeah? Good? No questions? No preguntas? Nada? Okay? Yeah, we speak a little Spanish here in South Carolina too. All right? Okay, good? No questions? All right. Open forum, you guys can ask questions and we'll see it and get to it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go live. So in the OSHA regs, your scriptures, right here, as Brady Hansen says, your scriptures, if you go to 1910.269, lowercase n, again, temporary protective grounds. Prior to placing your EPZ, your bracket, whatever you're going to do, make sure your bonds are good on all your components, all your connections. You're going to go ahead and you're going to verify that the regs say a number 5 down in lowercase n. Number 5 says you're going to verify an absence of nominal voltage. All right? So here's the deal. Think about this. You got to verify an absence of nominal voltage with your tool. You have a tool, let's say, as Ryan was talking about direct contact. You have a tool, maybe it's a mushroom, maybe it's a potato smasher. Linemen call these tools names, food names. So you don't want to get too close to them. They'll start gnawing on your arm or something, okay? But they call these potato mashers and mushrooms, and they're non-contact tools. And I've gone to many, many utilities that had non-contact tools, and we've done side-by-side testing on right there, that 19.9, 34.5. And we're 2 feet away, non-contact, and those tools are saying 69,000 volts on 19.9, 69,000 volts. Not very accurate, all right? Not only that, but check this out. What if this here was an overhead line and we're on an underbuild? This is an underbuild. We got transmission going across here, all right? And we got a non-contact tool, and we got to verify an absence of nominal voltage, but the things are so not accurate. What do you got on there? Is there a lack? I don't know. I'm getting false positive. Maybe it's a false negative because there's no contact. How do you know? Well, the regs say you're looking for an absence in number 5, lowercase n. You're looking for an absence of nominal voltage. But I submit to you all today that you are going to have a tool that's accurate enough, and you need to make changes. I've talked to engineers, I've talked to safety folks in different utilities. Right on the phone, I'm driving across country, and they'll get on the phone, have a conference. Brent, we got to talk to you about our tools. We're non-contact. Why are they unsafe? I talk to them 5 minutes later, they make a change. Seriously, they make a change. Thank goodness. Again, a lot of linemen are a lot safer today because they have knowledge and they have understanding of truth. And that's what we're going to show you guys today, truth. All right, it's reality. It's not a concept. It's not a theory. Electricity, it's not a theory. It's reality, and we are working in this reality every day. Well, we might have a couple days off. So you use your reality when you're home. How's that? All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a tool that's accurate enough, and I think this needs to be changed in the regs. We're going to verify an absence of nominal voltage, and you guys need to start training this regularly, and you're going to add this to your training, safety training for your linemen. We're going to also you have a tool that verifies a lack of backfeed and a lack of induction. Huh? All three. All three. That's kind of cool. All right? So we're going to go ahead. We're going to use our tool. Our tools, we create these, build these. We're the only manufacturer that creates these tools to be discriminatory. They discriminate between whether you're close to the ground plane, URD, or OH, far from the ground plane, overhead. There's some OH transmission, even further from the ground plane, because you know how these tools work. So if we discriminate, then when you're overhead transmission, that tool is going to be way more accurate for you than if you're in underground, way up in the air, because you know how these tools function now. So now it makes sense. You got knowledge and understanding. All right? So we're simply going to go these capacitive test points and verify if it's energized or not. You all see that? So it's a little wet out, so we're reading real high. So we got a change in our environmental situation here. All right, but direct contact. See that? Direct contact. That's what you want. You don't want false readings. Direct contact. All right? Let's go to these hot bushings over here. You know what, Ryan? I think this... So it's a little juicy out today because of what's coming out of the sky. So our readings are going to be a little high. So we understand our environment. We have that knowledge and understanding. But I tell you what, this is a lot better than last month. Last month in June, it was about 100 degrees when we were doing this. And we had swamp britches. So I prefer this. So you can see here, the tool ain't moving. Now you got a non-contact tool. We're on an underbuild. And these things are going to be picking up all kinds of sources. Point sources, long sources. There's a little movement right there. Very little. It's wet. All right, direct contact. Yeah, it's reading high. I'm going to use that other tool. No, we're okay. So I think we have some cross phasing going on inside this trailer. This trailer gets a lot of miles on it around the country. And it's really wet, so it's going to pick up any imperfections. All right. So we got an issue here. This morning before it started raining, it was reading about 20,000 volts. It's really high right now. Man. All right, direct contact. That's what you want. All right, so we're getting about 51,000 volts. It's probably around 60 because we got some cross phasing going on inside this trailer somewhere. But here's the point. The point is direct contact. All right. And when you're using these meters, it's important to use direct contact always. So what we're going to do is you're typically trained open test ground. All right? Open test ground. How we like to train is we're going to add a couple steps. We're going to add test, open, test, test the tester, ground. All right? When we go to safety classes, we go to conferences, if we're doing a safety rodeo and this is one of the stations and we've got a pad mount here, and they ask us to, hey, let's use your pad mount for one of the stations, open test ground on a pad mount. So what we do is we say, hey, that's fine, we'll come by, we'll do it for you guys, but we're not going to do open, test, ground. We're going to do test, open, test, test the tester, ground. 5 steps. So we do a test here. The reason why we're going to test on a live known voltage source is we're going to verify our tool is functioning properly. And here, the tool is actually not functioning properly. We should be at 20,000 volts like we were this morning before the rain came. So we got a little bit of an issue, so we're aware of that issue already. That's good. We're aware of it. It's not very accurate, so something's going on here that we should think about, talk about. All right? So we're going to do a test first, because you always want to test your tool, your voltage indicator, your phasing tools on a live known voltage source prior to use out in the field. You do a battery test. That's great. But a battery test does not test the tool on a live known voltage source. I've been to a couple utilities that were training their linemen that a battery test, maybe they had a push button or a switch plate like ours or a push button like theirs. And they were training their linemen that a battery test is a true tool functionality test. And I just simply, and they get mad at me. And I simply talk to those folks that, hey, where's the transformer inside that tool stepping it up to high voltage? 9-volt battery to high voltage. Where is it? They change their work methods, they stop yelling and hollering at me, and they keep their mouths shut. Okay, let's not talk about it no more. And that's good, that's fine. All right, so we're always going to test first. The other reason why I like to train to test first, before we open the switch, is we want to verify our heads in the game. We want to verify that we have personal accountability, and we're going to talk more about this at the end. And we want to verify we have mutual accountability, one to another. So we're going to test it while it's hot. Make sure the tool's working, make sure our heads are working, make sure we have mutual accountability. All right, so that's what we do. Test. Then we're going to go ahead and open that switch. We're going to open that switch. We got a lockout, tag out. We got a flag on it, so that if a contractor comes by, we got a certain color flag, the contractor knows who did it, what utility, or maybe a contractor put a flag on it so we know what contractor did that. And we're aware of it, all right? So we're gonna flag it as well so we can see it from a distance. We don't get confused. So what we're gonna do is we go ahead and open the switch, create a visual open air gap. And if that visual open air gap is around the mountainside and you're over here working and you can't see that visual open air gap, it's not a visual open air gap any longer, is it? So you can establish it, but will it remain in that position the whole time? Some switches are getting closed. Maybe they're not flagged. Maybe they got the other team, line team, cruising by, saw that this switch was open, and they went ahead and closed that fuse up. Maybe. It has happened. All right? So go ahead. You're going to create the visual open air gap. Then we're going to test. All right? We got the test here. The tool says we are de-energized. But not only is the tool telling us, again, remember, not only the tool is telling us that we have an absence of nominal voltage, but the tool is telling us we have no backfeed, and the tool is telling us, the device, that we have no induction. How's that? Pretty cool, huh? All right, now what we're going to do is test the tester, because we want to make sure the tester was telling us the truth. So we're going to test the tester. We have a 3 kV power supply that a lot of folks put in their kits side by side right here. But also we have now our handheld power supply. It's easy, fits in the box, fits in your bag, very simple, rugged. It's got a little rubber housing around it, keep it safe. But here we're going to test the tester. Okay, it's very safe, high frequency, but the voltage is there, but not the current. It's very safe to use. All right? So test the tester. And then after we test the tester, we prove the tester is working properly, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up our brackets. We're going to set up our EPZ. Verify our bonding is good. How's that? All right? So the tester is something that we've been training for several years now. Well, since we've been doing the lineman safety and tool training for 5 years. And the tester is something that utilities and contractors are bringing on board. They're adding it. That's awesome. I'm excited about that. You know, here's the deal. We got 5 steps. We got test, verify the tool's working on a live no voltage source, verify our head's in the game, right? And then we got open, then we got test the tester, ground. 5 steps, not 3. It's going to take us a little more time. Here's the deal, what's happening out there. Everywhere I go, everybody's belly aching about having a lack of skilled, hard-working folks, all right? They're belly aching about it. They're hard to find these days. You know, the folks don't like to step up, get out here in the rain, get some swamp britches. Maybe they don't like that, all right? And what happens is that you're down a guy on your crew, so you're not going to get all 10 jobs done that week. You just won't. And the fact is, your production's not going to be as strong because you're missing that guy. But you guys really need to get over it and not put pressure on your linemen to keep the production up. If you're down a guy and you got 10 jobs to do that 9 guys got to complete, but you're down a guy, you shouldn't expect him to get those 10 jobs done at all. You expect him to get 9 jobs done. That needs to be the mantra. No pressure, man. All right? So you guys got to lay off. Linemen instinctively like to compete. We like to compete. I'm better than them. And then we want to get the job done fast. I've been there, okay? But we really need to slow things down and think about things and talk with each other. It takes time. If you're going to be testing, open, test the tester, and then ground, that's 5 steps. You're not going to get as many jobs done. But think about this. You're down 1 guy, but then someone on your crew gets hurt because of production, because you're trying to go fast. All right? So now you're down, think about it, you're down 2 guys. What does that get you? Now you're down 2 guys. Somebody got hurt and they're out for a few weeks. Maybe they got to do some easy duty stuff for a few weeks. You know, do some shop cleaning, a little brooming. They can't get out in a bucket truck no more for a while. Why? They heal. So now you're down 2 guys because of production purposes and because you're going too fast and skipping steps. To me, that's skipping a step. You do it, but to me, it's skipping a step. For instance, not putting the proper accessory on your your measuring device, meter tool. If you're not putting the proper accessory on, that's a shortcut. Because the opportunity, like Ryan said, to bypass those resistors becomes greater. So it's a shortcut. That's not proper. So a lot of guys, when I visit them, they don't have these accessories. They've been using the cone tip. And it's like, wow, I never thought about it like that. Protect your protection, all right? Think about it. Get the proper accessory. Okay. All right, Ryan, we're going to try this. We're going to try this even though we're a little high. Here's the deal. When you're out in the field, you're going to visually inspect your components, your work area. And when you visually inspect your components and work area, every once in a while, from time to time, you're going to see that these components are close to the meter head. Maybe the meter's close to a hot phase or a ground plane, and you don't want to compromise your sphere, your air dielectric, your protection, your field of protection. You don't want to compromise that. So if there is a ground or a potential hot phase close by the meter head, you're going to use a 0 ohm extension. 0 ohm extension. Just add it to your kit. These are also becoming very popular, and the reason why is because the folks are learning, understanding, and they're getting knowledge. And they're working safer. So we're going to add that 0 ohm extension. Let's see what happens. Any questions thus far, folks? Everybody good? Okay. Good. Okay. So we're going to add a 0 ohm extension. And you're not going to use a 0 ohm extension all the time. But there are many opportunities for an incident to take place if you don't have a 0 extension, because you're compromising that sphere, that air dielectric around your tool. So we got the 0 ohm extension on. Let's go hot. All right, so with the 0 ohm extension, two things have taken place. One is the meter is what? Two things. The meter is further from two things. You guys get it? Anybody get this? The meter is further from anybody? With the 0 ohm extension. The meter is further from the ground plane, all right? The meter is also physically and obviously the meter is further from the source. So we've accomplished that using the 0 ohm extension. So now what happens is you're safer and you have a more accurate reading, all right, with the 0 ohm extension. That's the purpose of 0 ohm extension, all right? So I was doing training in Tennessee several years ago, and two linemen came up to me, and they said that they had an arc flash incident. A guy got hit with some flash, and with the potential. And what happened is two guys are working a cabinet, and the cabinet was loose from its foundation, for whatever reason, Tennessee, I guess. You right? So what happened was one guy was on his hot stick, and he had his air dielectric, his best friend, and he was working the elbows, and they knew they were working hot. His buddy had his gloves on, and he went up to that cabinet and put his hands on that cabinet. And when he put his hands on that cabinet, he had that arc flash while wearing his good friend. You see, a sign I saw several years ago going out of a service station when I got finished with the training said that your gloves are your best friend and your TPGs. Your gloves are not to be considered your best friend. They're a good friend. And sometimes a good friend can let you down. That air dielectric, that's your best friend. And what happened was that other lineman, when he put his hand on that cabinet, he kicked his air dielectric, his best friend, to the roadside, and he got arc flashed. It's real wet out here today, so I can't show you tool gloving because we see the numbers are too high. So I'm not even going to attempt it and let Ryan measure the voltage on my body. But we could do some short stick, all right? And that way you guys see some numbers, what happens when you're working safe compared to unsafe, all right? And that's what happened, and they wrote up the incident report, and they said the reason why he got arc flash is because there was rat piss in the cables. That's a true story, rat piss in the cables, and that's it. So guess what? They say rat piss is in the cables, so no one learned nothing. There was no knowledge shared, there was no understanding shared, swept under the rug. And see, what we need to do is we need to have freedom to talk about these things. We need to have a warrior heart to where we're not afraid to tell everybody, hey, we're human. We had a near miss, or we had an incident that took place. We need to talk about it so we can learn from it. So these incidences, these near misses, these happenings, they stop happening because we can learn. We can gain knowledge and understanding from these things. Make sense? Okay? So let's talk about it. Let's not write these stories, rat piss, and then the guy gets out of the hospital a few weeks or a few days later, all right, starts healing up, he's fine. All right, he's fine. Didn't lose any body parts. But nothing was said, nothing was talked about. Nothing was shared. That's ridiculous. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you. Okay, Ryan, you go ahead, step in now. Explain.
We're going to use our PD25 to show voltages across Brent's body when he's using this tool properly, our VD1000 properly, versus when he's short sticking. So I'm going to put our PD25 in the 2 kV setting. It's our corded phasing and voltmeter. It's a true RMS device, so it gives us accurate information. We got the second probe going to ground over there on the trailer. So let's go ahead and take some readings.
I'm gonna get in. Skylar, get in close to that number.
So just out in the air, it's a wet day, we're picking up about 5 or 6 volts. We'll go to his foot. You see about 270, 265 volts. Go to his back. See about 560 volts. We go to his glove, we see about 780, 790 volts.
All right, so this is a wet day. We got an issue going on with the trailer, obviously, compared to just a couple hours ago. So our numbers are skewed. You could take those numbers working safe and divide it by about 10. And if you take a tenth of those numbers, that's going to be real. So even, here's the point. The point is, even when you're working safely, you're still coupling with the capacitance, because you know how electricity works. It's not a theory, it's reality. Even when you work safe, your bodies are picking up the capacitance to some measurable degree. That's a fact, all right? That's pure fact. Now, I'm not going to quite go short stick because it's a little higher than I like, but I'll go a little closer than what's proper. Okay, Ryan, I'm not going to do it.
That's wet.
Yeah, it's too wet. All right, so I'm not going to do it. All right, but anyways, when we go short stick, what happened is those numbers start going up. They start doubling and tripling when you short stick. The point is, when you're short sticking, those numbers, which we're not going to show today, those numbers go up. Okay? When you're tool gloving, those numbers go up again. So when you're working unsafe, not only are you coupling with the capacitance, but then it gets to a point where you could get hurt. Okay? Okay, Ryan. We're going to show you guys some corded safety. Okay, I'm going to energize these other pad mounts, Ryan. All right, go ahead, Ryan. You want to take the meter?
Yeah.
You can explain to them what we're going to do, capacitive test points.
All right. So again, the PD25, we're going to use it here. Since it's an accurate tool, we're going to demonstrate using it to phase off capacitive test points. A lot of folks are getting away from capacitive test points. We recommend, if there are any elbow change outs for any reason, using capacitive test points for this very reason. When you got a tool like the PD25, you can phase off of them. Obviously the potential is going to be lower at a capacitive test point. They're making those elbows pretty good nowadays, so they last pretty good time. And again, the potential is lower, so why not phase off of the lower potential rather than primary potential? So the first thing you're going to want to do using the device, since this is a little bit unusual using a digital device to phase off capacitive test points, is you're going to take a phase to ground reading. The reason you're going to take a phase to ground reading is for a couple reasons. The main reason is because since this tool is going to give you accuracy within 1 volt, what you're going to see is those elbows, they may have cured different, although they're the same age. They may have been made by the same manufacturer. The elbow's cured a little bit different, so that capacitive test point value may be a little bit different at each elbow. So you're going to do a little bit of math similar to phasing with one of these tools on a overhead conductor primary power. So you're going to take the phase to ground reading on the first elbow, and you see about 314 volts. You're going to want to remember that number, because if you go to the next elbow, phase to ground, and you see 230 volts, what was the difference there? 230?
About 40, so about 60, 75?
Yeah, so you remember the two voltages, and you're expecting, if you're in phase, to see the difference of those two voltages, so about 75, 80 volts.
Okay, so you use the tool initially, correct, to verify that their components are energized, hot or not, before you phase. Also, the second reason is to verify the tool's working properly on a live known voltage source. That's important. Thirdly, and most importantly, is Ryan and I are doing this because Ryan is verifying and telling me that he's personally accountable and mutually accountable to me. All right? I'm telling Ryan the same thing. At this new job site, this the left pad mount house address, I'm telling him that at this house, I'm mutually accountable to him and personally accountable to him. Okay? So that's why we read hot. All right? So go ahead, Ryan.
So again, if we're in phase, we should see the difference of those two numbers, about 75, 80 volts. And we see a little bit lower, about 60 volts. But if we're out of phase here, we would see, instead of a low number closer to zero, we're seeing the difference. You would see that out of phase multiplier, about 1.72. So about 300 volts, 1.72, you'd see around 520 volts. So we know here for sure that this is in phase.
Okay. Go to our secondary panel. You get that, Skylar? Good.
So we get about 1 volt. So we see close to zero in phase.
We got a little bleed on that cable. The grass is wet. So that's why you're showing 1 volt. So the cable has a little bleed on it.
We go phase to ground, seeing right at 120 volts. Phase to phase, 210 volts.
Out of phase. Okay? We'll go to the hot bushings right here. We're going to put our bushing adapters on. Proper accessory on our hot bushings. I've had folks say, hey, why can't I just put my straight probe into that hot bushing? And I tell you what, if you want to see an arc flash and have some fun that day, if that's really what you're into, then that straight probe is probably the accessory you don't want to use, and you need to change up your attitude a little bit. But you got to use the proper accessory, bushing adapter, to protect yourself from a potential arc flash, right? Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
Again, we'll go phase to ground first for the same 2 reasons. You want to verify the tool's working on the live node voltage source, and you also want to tell your partner, hey, we're mutually accountable, ready for the job. So here we see a 1. That 1's just giving us a funky reading on the device. It's telling us you got the tool in the wrong setting. So I've still got it in the 2 kV setting. I'm going to flip it to the 25 kV setting. Since these numbers are a little high, it may still pig the device. So we see about 20,000 volts. So we've got what it seems like a grounding issue inside the transformer.
Yeah. Something's wrong. That transformer is just bad news. So probably needs to be pulled and replaced. Hit a pothole, probably New York or Texas. And that's what happens to this trailer. It's, it's live. All right. So go ahead and tell them what I'm going to do, Ryan.
So now we're going to go to the other bushing. If we see 0 or close to it, know we're in phase. So here we see a 0.4, very close to 0. So that's just the cable. That's that bleed on this wet grass. On a dry day, maybe you're working on rocks, you may see 0 itself. But here we see a little bit of that bleed in the cable. So we see a 0.5, 0.4.
Okay, explain to them what we're doing, Ryan.
So anytime you're phasing with a corded tool or maybe high potting, you always want to discharge the capacitance between the 2 devices through the cable. So we're always going to go with the second probe to ground. You don't have to do it in that order, but we recommend it doing it that way just so you can physically see the numbers draining, that potential draining between the 2 devices. So here, if you watch close, you'll see it drain here kind of quick. It takes a second to drain that potential between the 2 just because of the resistance in the probe. There's nothing wrong with the device. But that's the same thing you want to do when high potting. Usually the rule of thumb with high potting is however long it took to charge the cable, that's how long you want to take your second probe to ground to discharge that capacitance you built up.
Okay, any questions thus far, guys? You guys good so far? Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to wrap this up. Okay, right, I'll talk about that. So You know, we're doing this electric culture of safety around the country. And these webinars, every single month we're doing these webinars. And there's absolutely no cost. And it's amazing the speakers we've got. So I'm kind of giving you guys a nutshell over the last 5 speakers we've had. In 002, we had Danny Rains, electric system grounding. He talked, it's a great, we got a video on it. You guys could ask for it, request it. Just go to safetytraining@bieremeters.com. Ask me for it, I'll send it to you. There's no cost, okay? Anyways, Danny talked about bracket grounding. He talked about the bond. He talked about bonding. And he also talked about setting up your EPZ, all right? So with electric system grounding, Danny came in. So the bracket is going to protect your equipment. So basically, let's think about this, all right? For Danny's training, you're protecting yourself, your body, your equipment, all right, by bracket. That's how we're going to use this as an allegory. The bonding, super important to understand what bonding is about. Highly recommend you watch his 002 webinar. And that's regarding the bonding each other, how we come together as a line team, all right? There's no more working separate. There's not a guy that's head and shoulders above somebody else with attitude, all right? We're together, we're brothers and sisters together. And the EPZ is going to be you. The EPZ is going to be you as far as your mind, as far as what you're about right here, all right? You're going to take care of you. But you got to work together as a team. You got to have that important bonding with each other. You got to have your equipment, your body protected, the bracket grounding, all right? And your EPZ is going to be your mind and your heart. You got to take care of that, all right? Then we had Lito Wilkins come in. That's a great video, man. 003. It's My Shocking Awakening. And you need to listen to that over and over. Same with Danny, same with everybody that's coming in here. My Shocking Awakening. And he talks about speaking up. When you're on the job site, you need to learn to speak up. We got our tailboard. We got our we've got our job brief, all right? We got all these things going on, but we need a when we sign that job briefing and we sign off of it and we go to work, all right? Typically what happens is when we sign that job briefing, we sign off on a lot of things, not just our signature. Okay, let's go to work, we're done with that, done talking about it. No, after we sign off, we're not signing off. So let's gather everybody after they sign off and let's talk about it one last time. You know, you're going to do like a 2-minute walk around. Everybody's going to do a 2-minute walk around. Compare their ideas about hazards. Compare their ideas, their thought processes. What's in here about risks in that particular job site. All right? Pole height, you know, pole condition, environmental conditions. You know, how you guys feel together as a crew, as one, line crew. Line team, speak up. So when an apprentice speaks up, you got to allow him that opportunity to speak up. And maybe what he says might not be a good idea or not sound proper to some of these older guys, but you need to listen to him and let's talk about it. If you don't listen to him, then he's going to have shame. He's going to not want to speak up when you as a journeyman lineman require it, or you're going to die. I've heard stories about guys in bucket trucks where the groundman says something, and that journeyman that's up in the bucket truck, his life was saved because the groundman said something. And you don't want to shame folks. You don't want to put them down for speaking up. You might not like the idea. It might seem bad to you, but speak up and you listen. Listen. All right? No arguing. You listen. All right. Then Billy Martin came with 004. Flip the safety dynamic. Oh my gosh, he gets in the mind. He gets in the consciousness of linemen. Highly recommend you listen to Billy and what he talks about, that mind, that mindset, consciousness. And right here, he brings up connecting with one another. How the linemen connect. And how you, by connecting, there's a better communication line from one brain to the other brain. Where, you know, you got that eye hand and brain connection. Well, now we got different body parts. We got the groundman, we got the journeyman lineman, we got maybe a safety guy, maybe the operations manager, maybe he's been taking a visit, all right? We got all these body parts, and these body parts need to talk to each other, need to work together. I mean, come on, man. You guys see these guys that they come from war, all right, which is horrible, and they're missing a leg or missing an arm, but they still got heart, all right? And thank goodness that they got the heart to protect us. But guys, we don't want to see us out there in the field going through the same scenarios where we weren't listening to this guy. Someone loses an arm, huh? Because we weren't communicating, connecting. Got to get 004, flip the safety dynamic. Then also 005, the passion behind the idea. Caleb Thompson, Brady Hansen, great video. You got to watch it. The thing that I got out of it for you guys, out of that, going through their Timpson's training system, is they're able to train linemen to work hot and safely hot. They could feel it if they make a mistake. They can feel it, but they're not going to get killed, all right? But it's allowing them to work hot. So it's for real. And here's the point of what I want to share with you guys as far as from that training, 005, is it's for real. And you guys are for real. What we do out there, one of the most dangerous jobs in this whole world is line work, all right? And it's real. All right, so if what you do is for real, we need to start getting for real. Stop talking down. Oh, we got some new apprentices. We got these new guys, and man, their hands are kind of soft, and you know, they just don't have the logistics in their mind to mentally get this through. Okay, that's great. Step up, man. Be the shepherd. Help them out. All right, don't put them down. Bring them up to where you're at here in understanding and knowledge so they don't get hurt. Too many guys are getting hurt that are apprentices. All right, and we tend to put them down. That's just wrong, man. Brother's keeper, sister's keeper. How is putting down your brother, putting down your sister real? That's not real. We're not working real. We got to be real. All right. Then yesterday, the 8 habits of a highly effective safety culture. Yesterday, that's going to be a great video. I'm hoping it's out next week. Huh, Jeremy? All right. With Rod Courtney from Empirical. Man, you guys got to listen to that. Because I tell you what, his thing right there is change the safety paradigm. Change the safety paradigm. The thing I got out of that yesterday for you guys today, you got to watch the whole video, about an hour and 40 minutes or so. You got to watch that. Is fix the work. Fix the work, not the worker. All right? Here's the deal. We talked about safety behavioral, and behaving in the safety zone and in the safety realm here. We've talked about that for so long. And here's the thing. What's happened is the deaths are basically flatline. We still see about the same amount of deaths. There's less near misses. There's less incidences that are taking place, but the deaths are basically flatlined. Okay, so how can we fix that? And how can we fix that is, one, understand that we're human. And we need to talk about we're human. And we need to be open about our mistakes, open about our miscues that we do as human beings, all right? And accept it. Get over it. Don't hide it. Talk about it. The guy that told me that he held his bare hand onto that tool and went to the capacitive test point, he hasn't told anybody about it except me. He didn't tell anybody on his crew about it. And you think he's the only one that doesn't say something? Huh? Because everybody gets put down. They had an incident. They get put down. That's got to stop. We got to work for real. For real, we're human. For real, we make mistakes. We make accidents. You know, I liken safety. I liken safety. We're talking about fix the work, not the worker. All right? We got to accept people and bring them up, lift them up. But I liken safety to this. We got the same thing going on. That's part of ECOS. ECOS is to change the same old, same old. Is we got safety just like a sausage making manufacturer. All right? So what happens when you're making sausage? What happens is you got the bags coming, you put the meat in, and you twist it, and another bag comes, and you put the meat in and twist it, and it keeps on going, the links, sausage links, right? And it comes right out, and it keeps on coming out. And we got so much safety going on, we're pooping it out. All right? We're eating it, our bellies are full, and then we poop it out. But the thing is, we could have all the safety in the world. We could have all the training. We could do meetings every day. We could have meetings every week. That's not going to make us safer. What's going to make us safer is when we get real with one another. Speak up, communicate, get up in here, talk to each other. All right? You don't have to be friends at all. You might think the guy stinks. Maybe the gal is a smart out. Okay? Maybe she is. Maybe he is. All right? Who cares? The thing is, when you're on that job site, you've got to be accountable to one another. And that needs to be on the job brief. It needs to be on the job brief. Mutual accountability, personal accountability. And it starts that night before, the day before you get to the job. All right? That needs to be on the job brief, that you got to sign off and you're going to talk about it. After you sign off, you're going to talk about, hey, I'm ready, guys. Let's make this happen. Everybody, if they see something wrong, you're going to speak up, right? Yep. You want to watch me? Yep. I'm going to watch you? Yep. All right, so let's work for real. Let's work it hot. All right? I hope you guys enjoyed this training. We're going to do it again. The Linemen Tech Tool National Webinar. We're going to do it one more time in August the 17th at 10 a.m. so we can catch some West Coast folks. Right after Jimmy Vaughn comes the day before on the 16th for the Lineman Safety National Webinar for ECOS. All right? So hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, email us, contact us. Spread this ECOS. Spread out the electric culture of safety. Let's form a line team. All right? Thanks, guys. Take care.